Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning, March 20th, 2024. We get together most weekday mornings at this time to talk about tips, strategies, share success stories, and support each of you. We try to keep the topics fairly broad, meaning regardless if you are a client or a prospective client, someone looking for funding, or a current or prospective distribution partner, because our program really serves two masters in a very innovative way without compromise to the other. So we certainly do help create legally fundable businesses so those businesses can start and grow and reach their potential. And concurrently, we work with professionals like many of you who are looking to earn an additional income by helping others. We live in an economy and that unless we're on welfare and a support system, that we have to find a way to generate income. Some ways pay a little, some pay a lot. Some are W-2 positions where we work for others. Others are self-employment. As our model is a license-based model, so we essentially provide all the back office services, the training and the support, so each of you can have what we call a branch office and go out and under your branding, help small businesses improve financial literacy and access to capital. So what we do is legal, it's ethical, it's effective. And again, since we're providing the back office services, you don't have to do the work. You just do the front end. So the first premise we need to cover is that there's a big demand for what you and I do. There absolutely is a huge demand for access to capital. Most of the resources are vastly different from what you and I do together. But at first glance, people don't realize that. So there's lots of loan brokers that will charge a fee and facilitate access to an SBA loan or a merchant cash advance or credit card stacking and so forth. And I'm not diminishing that. But what we do, I believe, is more needed. We help legally and ethically create fundable businesses. So we're building what it takes for the business to become fundable. The purpose today isn't to go through bullet by bullet what we do. Hopefully you're familiar with that. If not, it's here on Chapman Loan Program. Our purpose isn't to go through the 4 phases, which describes how we do it and when we do it. Again, hopefully you're familiar with that, and if not, you can access that here. What we're going to talk about instead is for those of you that's looking to generate income. We're going to talk about some resources, some strategies, some techniques to make sure that you're generating a lot of income. Now, it's true with most businesses. You could start a CPA firm and have a small business that generates a little bit of income, or you could grow a larger, more vibrant. I think many of you know my first job out of graduate school was with Deloitte and Touche. Now it's just called Deloitte, one of the world's largest accounting and consulting actuarial firms. So there you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees. So that's a very, very large accounting firm. You could have a very small one. Well, in terms of your branch or what you and I are doing, you can think small, you can think medium, you can think larger. If you're not familiar with the economic model, on chapmanloanprogram.org, we have a training. I'll pull it up here. We won't play it, but I'll just show it to you. And it describes, as it slowly loads here, there we go, we'll pause it, the economic model. So on a typical basis, your branch should expect to generate around $26,738 per client that's enrolled. Not get rich quick, but again, it's a numbers game, right? So if you had an extra $26,000 a month, would that make your branch successful? Well, probably not, right? There's so much more potential. So here we project out 8. If you need this editable spreadsheet, let us know and we can send it to you. So that brings you up to about 200,000. Let's get to the point of today's discussion. A successful business is a profitable business. Some of you do not have profitable branches. And the key to having a profitable branch is to have leads. because we take care of all the implementation. So it's not like you have to go ramp up a bunch of staff to implement the clients you enroll. That's a tremendous benefit to you. But we need leads that convert, that enroll, so you're making money and successful. Now, kind of a sensitive topic, but some of you aren't so good at generating leads. Some of you aren't so good at closing leads. So we're going to talk about outsourcing some of that. So we're going to switch over to a website, supportshepherd.com. We have no financial interest in this, so it's not like we're trying to pitch you to these people so we make money. Not at all. But Shepherd is an example of a company that will provide you staff for your branch, because again, it's so important, and it's okay if you want to keep your branch small. So that's okay. You could be a niche, what they call a boutique branch, where it's just you and maybe a receptionist or admin assistant or a significant other spouse running it. It's okay to be small, but we need to be profitable. And so to be profitable, we must have leads, and we need to convert those leads. If you're good at that, then I guess this is irrelevant. But if you're looking for help, let's talk about resources that are available. So on Support Shepherd, and I'll give you a quick tour of their site, but this is just one position that they could provide for you. So let's click Lead More. So if you wanted to work with Shepherd, they would provide you a sales rep for your branch. Well, what would that sales rep do? Well, they could contact prospects. They're willing to cold call. They can answer questions. They can direct prospects to where you need them to go. So maybe you want a sales rep to go out and generate the leads and schedule appointments with you. Or maybe you want the sales reps to generate the leads and close the leads. That's up to you. You're the CEO of your branch. You decide how your sales organization functions. But it only makes sense to have dedicated resources, whether it be you or someone else, to sales. Because if you're not generating an adult income through your branch, something's wrong, because the need is there, the opportunity is there. So the point is, maybe we need to look at outsourcing or bringing in resources to your branch. So the sales rep, and you might say, wow, I mean, that sounds fine. Yeah, I'd love to have 10 sales reps. If I had 10 of these guys that were out pitching to clients, and each of them had production goals, let's say each of them had production goals of 8 a month per rep, and that's reasonable full time. Now all of a sudden your gross income is this times the number of reps. So you might say, well, yeah, that sounds fine, but how much is this going to cost? I can't afford it. It's crazy cheap. So let's go back a page. And so I'm still on Support Shepherd. $1,000 a month. They'll get you a sales rep for $1,000 a month. Now, if you're thinking too small and you say, oh my God, $1,000 a month, I could never afford that, we're missing the economic model, right? So if one rep is projecting to generate $26,000 a month, why in the world would you not be willing to invest $1,000 a month to generate $26,000 a month? See the math? Or maybe they're not that successful. Maybe they only generate half of that. So now they're only generating 13,000. But the point is, we need to have a sales organization within your branch, and either you're doing it or you need to have someone do it. It's irresponsible, it's illogical to own a branch and not have a dedicated sales organization. Again, it could be you or it could be someone else. There's different positions on Shepherd. You can see in some of them phone support. I don't know. You could just skip through these and see. You can get virtual assistants. But what I felt was most important was specifically getting some sales help. So now there's other places that you could hire help, but if we go non-US, typically your cost is lower. And here you're looking at what, $250 a week for a full-time qualified sales rep. So what I want to do is get some feedback from each of you. How well do you feel that your sales organization is positioned right now for your branch. So we're going to go through the list. Bernard, if you don't mind, and you've been with us a long time, seen a lot of evolution, but Bernard, if you look at your branch's sales organization, are you positioned to generate 8 deals a month? Because that's really the minimum a branch. Brian, thank you for joining us. Brian has been around quite a while. Love talking to Brian. Brian, I think you might have came in a little late, but the question is, for your branch, do you have a sales organization? Because if we do not have a sales organization, whether it's you or someone else, we probably will never hit these numbers. We probably won't be successful. We must have a sales organization. And again, that's true if we started, again, we talked earlier about an accounting firm or an engineering firm. If we own a business, we have to have a system of generating clients. So, Eric, boom, thank you so much for being on. Eric, tell me a little bit about your sales organization. Jerome, Jimmy, Kalias, Kenya, Larry. Larry, you're awesome. Larry, you're on this training almost every day, but your branch is generating literally zero volume. So I'm not criticizing you, but do you have, so what I'm trying to bring to your attention is not critical or not punitive, but if you're not hitting your numbers, we need to look at your sales organization first. Who do you have in place that's out generating leads, right? Because that's the first part. Let's bring up the notepad like we like to do. And this was from yesterday, so let's get rid of that. So what does our sales organization do? It needs to generate leads, needs to educate leads, and it needs to enroll leads. Those are 3 things. Now, the beautiful thing is we do all the implementation. So if you have no one doing these things, then there's absolutely no surprise that we're not successful, right? So let's talk about how to evaluate our branches sales organization. First thing, so let's say that it's you or someone else. Bernard has other people. Many of you are solo operators, which is fine. But the first question is, how many leads, we'll call them active leads, how many active leads does your branch have now? Right now. So if we don't have, let's say 10 or more active leads right now that we're working, people that we have already educated that we're trying to enroll, because we got to bring them through this process, right? We don't just enroll people. That's unrealistic. We need to first have leads, and then we need to seek to educate them. Well, what does that mean? Well, on the Chapman page, we talk about educating them using the 4-phase, and let's bring it up. We'll pause it as soon as it comes up. Here we go through an ad. I don't know why I get ads. I guess I need to pay to upgrade, but let's skip that. Okay, so we talk a lot about using this 4-phase graphic to describe what we do. That's a great way to educate people, but we need to have someone to try to educate, and then we educate them, and then once we educate them, we ask them if they would like to enroll. So let's go through each of you. How many leads do each of you have right now that are active leads? So let's go ahead and make it interactive. I won't announce it to everyone, but Bernard and Brian and Charles, we've got 427 of you. I can't say all the names. Christina, Doug, Eric, Gilbert, Emmanuel, Jeanette, Jerome, Jimmy, Kalias, Kenya, Larry, Lon, Marilyn, Pauline, Hurley, Quana, Sanya, Terrence, Toyley, Tony, Trevor, Varney. You get the theme. Everyone, how many active leads do you have right now? And if that's small, then that's the most critical problem. We don't even have people to educate. So that's the first thing we need to do, because if we don't have leads, then there's not enough people to educate, not enough people to enroll. So we need leads. So I don't know if you want to use one of these people to go generate leads, $1,000 a month. Maybe you're good at it, but if it's not working for you, we need to do something different. Now, we talked about how to just go get leads. So in Chapman Loan Program, on this training, we actually showed you where you could just go get leads. So you could never have a shortfall. Let's bring that graphic or the page back up. You could never have, so this should never be a problem. Never be a problem. Why? Because there's lots of people looking for funding. And if you're not good at developing it, you can hire someone to develop those leads, or better, or another option is just go acquire the leads. You can go buy the leads. So if your constraint right now is a small number of leads, we should be able to fix that right away. That should not remain a problem. So that's the first thing. Marilyn mentioned she has Data Axle. So when we talk about lead sources, there are different types of lead sources. Let's skip down. So types of lead sources. So how could we go about developing leads? Well, we could go out and teach, and we've talked a lot about that, teaching in person, online, teaching financial literacy. You can teach the 10 mistake presentation, which is here. You can just teach about the 4 phases, but education certainly is a great way to create a funnel. Teach at libraries, teach at churches, teach online, what have you. We can get referrals. Referrals are great. When you get referrals from bankers and accountants and loan brokers, and one of the best ways to get referrals is Craigslist. You go onto Craigslist and you look at who else is marketing to small businesses, and you bring them on as a referral partner. But referrals is another. We can buy leads. Now, maybe that sounds bad, but it's cutting it out, because we've agreed, I think, that we're going to have leads or we're not going to be profitable, right? Over here, this is not going to happen if we don't have leads. It just won't happen. We have to have leads somehow, some way. It's up to you where you want to get them from. But to think that we don't have to have leads is a critical error. So we can get leads. Now, Marilyn mentions she's using Data Axle. So Data Axle works well. You can get it free for and this used to be called Sales Genie, and sometimes it's called Reference USA. But you can typically get this free for a trial. You can go to the library and probably get access to it. But this is more of a list. So these are not small businesses that have stated, hey, I'm interested in getting funding. It's just a list. Well, a list is a lot better, but now you got to work that list. So I would not consider Sales Genie leads until you work them. But alternatively, you can get leads that are actively looking for funding. And again, we talk about that down here in this sales process training here, the different places that we've found success. So don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I'm using Data Axle, I have leads. No, you have a list. That list has to be worked to determine who's a lead, because a lead is a small business owner that can answer 2 questions. So what is a lead? And we had a question from someone, let's see. Jerome actually asked an awesome question. Jerome asked, well, what is a lead, or when is someone a lead? Well, they've answered 2 questions. Do you want money to start or grow a business? Because if they say no to that, they're not a lead. They don't need your services. They don't need our program. They're probably great people, but they don't need our help. So that is not a lead. And then secondly, is your business fundable? Now that's $1 million question, because a lot of small business owners don't know what that means. And I have that conversation every day and it's fun. But this is the great transition question to two. Because most often I'll ask people this and they'll say, oh, yeah, it's fundable. What they're thinking about is, yes, I want funding, but often they don't know what you and I know. Because what does it take to have a fundable business? Well, let's refer back to what we do with the 4 phases. So first, they need to have a business that's set up correctly. In other words, they have a good commercial address, they're in good standing with the IRS and good standing with the federal government. So that would be number one. Often they don't have that. So let's pull that back up. So, is the foundation there, which is what we build in phase 1. So you can't just say, oh, phase 1, because they won't know what the shit that means. But it means, do they have the foundation addressed and set up correctly? And then secondly, it means, do they have strong business credit, which is, of course, what we do in phase 2. But you can't just say, oh, phase 2, they won't know what that means. So you'd say, okay, great. Well, can you tell me what your paydex score is? How many trade lines do you have reporting? Either they don't know, or usually that's weak. So no, they're not fundable. And then do they have strong business financials, like a balance sheet? A lot of times they don't even know what a balance sheet is. These are the things that we do in phase 3. But again, don't say phase 3 because they won't know what that means. So what happens is once you ask this question, and then you ask this question, you automatically blend into how to educate them. And that's why this graphic is so effective, because they can learn what it means to have a fundable business. Because you can't just want money. You can't just need money. You have to have a fundable business. So with that being said, let's go back to our main point here. This is the first evaluation that each of you should have for your branch. How many leads do you have currently? And many of you don't have many. So that's the first problem. It's just like the example I like to use, Domino's Pizza. If we bought a Domino's Pizza franchise and we had potentially 4 people to buy a pizza today, that's horrible. We'd go out of business. We need a volume of leads. That's the key to a sales organization. If you don't have a volume of leads, we need to fix that. Now, let's move on to the next. So one of the points that Bernard brought up, he's got leads, but he's not getting enrollments. So that would be, how are we educating our leads? Because something must be broken, right? So either we've not pre-qualified them and they haven't said yes to this and no to that. Because again, they'll think that they're fundable until you educate them, because they don't know the difference. They want to be fundable, so they say yes. But when you actually evaluate them, you find out it's no. So then all of a sudden, what you and I do becomes relevant. But if they think they're fine and they're not fine, and then all of a sudden we talk about our program, it won't make sense. So we have to educate them. And so we have 2 key resources to do that again, right? We have the 4-phase graphic, which each of you should have in editable format. If not, let us know. We can get it to you. You know how to reach us. And then the second would be the full PowerPoint, which we teach. And I can pull this up. You've not seen this. So this is called the 10 mistakes. It's great. Go through the commercial here. It's great to present live or in person. We should have provided you an editable version. And so you'll change the call to action, of course. But the bottom line is, you go through another commercial. We go through 10 mistakes in a very educational fashion. So they understand what it takes to be fundable. And we just very lightly tie in how we can help them through the program. So it's not so much of a sales presentation, but it talks about what keeps businesses from getting funding. And then, of course, it ties into things that we do. So if you're not familiar with this, you should be familiar with it. But let's pause that. Let's go back to our discussion. So, and then ultimately, how do we evaluate our branch sales organization? How many are we enrolling per month? Well, we'll even say per week. we need to really think on a narrower basis. Ideally, we look at our branch and say every day we should be enrolling a client. Now, we have some of you asking for resources. I can't juggle that, so just email us, support@Chapman Loan Program, if you're missing any of the editable documents. Happy to get them to you. So if it's not going really well, we need to analytically figure out why, right? So if you're not making at least 6 figures a month with your branch, we need to stop, pause, and evaluate for a moment. First thing is, do we have a good lead flow? This should never be a problem. If we don't have more leads, I have so many of you that can count the leads on one hand. That's never going to provide a successful business. That's too small of a number. There's too big of an opportunity out there. So we need to have lots of leads. There's lots of different ways to get leads. This is not all inclusive, but it's an example. But one of the most important aspects you need to know, we should never have a shortage of leads. You can buy leads, and we teach you where to buy leads that's worked here in the sales process. But we can also create leads by using salespeople. And you could be that salesperson, or you could delegate. Remember, you're the CEO of your business. You don't have to do everything yourself. Let's get back to it. So we need to have lots of leads, not just a list like Marilyn or whomever it was has. A big list is not a list of leads. Now, a list can turn into leads, and if we don't have leads and we don't have a list, we're in real trouble. But then we need to educate. We need to evaluate. How are we educating these individuals? If you use these 2 questions, it becomes quite easy, because the second question gets the client or prospective client to pause and think about, am I fundable? And it helps them understand, if you do it correctly, that they're probably not fundable. So it's not like we're baiting them in. It's just they don't know what you know. They don't know what it takes to have a fundable business. You and I absolutely know. We have a good foundation, we have business credit worthiness, and we have strong financials. Then we can go to funding. So this is what we do. All right, and then ultimately we need to enroll. So Bernard, you mentioned you've had sales reps, but they didn't produce. So, I mean, you're the one managing them, so we'd have to ask, where was the problem with the sales reps, Bernard? Was it that they didn't have any leads to work? Well, sometimes it makes sense to separate lead generation from the person that is actually explaining the program, because it's kind of a different skill set. If anything that you were going to outsource, Bernard or others, lead generation would make a lot of sense, because that's kind of the hardest thing. If you're just cold calling, which I guess is what Marilyn is doing off of the Sales Genie list, that's tough. Most of us aren't willing to do that diligently, consistently. But there are other people that for $1,000 a month will burn up the phone. I mean, they'll make 1,000 calls a month for you, and they're happy to be earning $1,000 a month because of their economic circumstances. And then we need to enroll clients. Enrolling clients, if we do it right. So let's talk about we'll close on how to effectively enroll clients. So this is where some of you, I believe, are dropping the ball. Again, don't take that as an insult, but I think that's where the problem is. So you might be okay with leads, or at least you have some leads. You might be okay at educating them, but some of you suck at enrolling them. So let's talk about enrolling. So you should have your client agreement set up in Adobe or DocuSign or some sort of e-signature format. So we need that, right? So we provide you an editable version in Word of the client agreement. You go in, you take our information out, you put your information in. If you want to add a performance fee, you can. We can help you with that. But the bottom line is, you take our template, you modify it, and then you get it into e-signature format. If you don't have that, you're really not ready to enroll clients. You've got a problem. So that would be a significant problem. Now, once we have this, what I strongly believe that you should do, and what works for us, is once you've generated the lead and you've educated the lead, when it's time to enroll, send send a link to prospect while on the phone with them. So make it simple, text it to them or email it to them. And where does that link come from? That link comes from your e-signature format, Adobe, DocuSign, whatever. And then stay on the phone with them. Let's type that. Stay on the phone with them while they enroll. So I'm not saying push them or force them, but be there to encourage them to answer their questions and stay on the phone with them. If you do that, you're probably going to have about a 97% enrollment rate. But if you just send them a link or tell them where to go and say, oh, will you do it? A lot of people will get distracted. They won't do it. They'll lose the link. They'll get confused, what have you. So let's close out. What else do you need help with to make sure that your branch is generating at least $100,000 a month? If your branch is not generating at least $100,000 a month, we have a problem. Something isn't working. And so we need to be introspective. What help do each of you need to make sure that you enroll at least 8 clients a month, make at least 100,000? So go ahead and type it into the Q&A. Is there something different that you need from us? Because in addition to these group trainings, we should be having our one-on-ones, and that's where we dig into what's going on in your world. So if you're not scheduling your one-on-ones with us, you're kind of missing out. It's free, it's expected, it's not required. Well, if you don't know what our link is, then just email us and I can make sure to send you our Calendly link. But if we run this business, this branch like a business, it doesn't have to be full-time. That's fine. It can be a side gig. You can do work yourself or have others do the work for you, like these people. But the bottom line is we need to be running our business like a business. We need to be generating at least $100,000 a month. There's too much opportunity. So Calais asked about setting up one-on-one. So anyone that needs individual help, just email us and we'll email you back our Calendly link. You should have it, but it's okay. But what else do we need to do for you? All right, so Jeanette says she needs funding to run her business like a business. Fair enough. So if you need funding to run your business like a business, we have one of 2 options. Well, I'll step back and I'll digress for a minute. And we're going to run along, but this is worth it. So when I used to work for the SBA, I used to do in-person workshops, and I would do the workshops with Brad. Brad was kind of my senior, not my boss, but he had been around the SBA a lot longer than I had. He's a former bank examiner, so really smart guy, much smarter than me. And so when we would present our live workshops, one of the sections that he did was on this. So I give Brad credit for this. Brad would say, Jeanette, there's only 3 ways to get funding for a business. There's only 3 ways. There's only 3 ways. And I'll type it up here. 3 ways. Oops, I can spell. To get funding for a business. One of which is debt, the other of which is equity, and the third of which is earned income. So if any of you need money like Jeanette to run your branch like a business, there's only 3 options. Now there's sub options, but either we could go borrow money so your business, your branch can be successful, and that's fine. You can roll in the program, 2-step process, step 1, step 2, great, and we'll get you funding. So that would be one option, is to borrow money to get your branch. Don't need to do that, but if that's what you prefer, that's great. The third way to have money to start or grow a business is equity. That's where you or someone else put money into the business in exchange for ownership. And then the third of which is earned income, because we make enough off each client, right? Let's go back. We should be making around 20, not all of it up front, but we should be making around, let's just round off, 26,000 per client. If you just bootstrap it in the beginning, focus and do these things, which would be have leads, educate the leads, and enroll clients, then we could fund the growth of our branch through earned income. But you've got to choose one of these ways. There's only 3 ways, and this is per Brad, right? So yeah, if you want debt to grow your business, then enroll as a client. If you want equity to grow your branch, to grow your business, then either you put money in out of your pocket or we bring in equity investors in exchange for ownership. Or probably the best way, which Brad would always say is the best way, is to earn income, because it shouldn't take a lot to get started. It shouldn't take much at all to get started. It's just, it means that you would be responsible for all three of these steps. But if you're not good at all three of those steps, we need to find someone that is, right? Because how's the branch, how's the business going to succeed? All right, so let us know what we can do, but it starts with leads. If you do not have enough leads, we've got to resolve that. Nothing good's going to happen if you don't have enough leads. Then we need to educate the leads, and there's really two primary ways to educate them. One of which is the 4 phases, the other of which is using the full 10 mistake workshop, which we've talked about and showed you briefly. And then we need to be able to enroll leads. And if you're not set up to enroll your clients properly, that's a real problem. We need to be set up on DocuSign or Adobe, whatever e-signature software, send it to them, and then stay on the phone with them until they enroll. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Hopefully it was helpful. You know how to reach us. We're happy to assist. Your success is our success. But let's go enroll a client today. Let's make money today. We'll figure out how to make lots of money later. But let's just start today with enrolling one client. Enroll one client today. Let us know what we can do to help. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.